I found a kid abandoned at McDonald's. Yesterday my car broke down on the way to work, and I had to get it towed to the mechanic. They said it would take about an hour and a half, so I decided to walk about a quarter mile to the McDonald's because why not? When I got there, I noticed a young boy, maybe 8 or 9, just sitting in the barrier between the McDonald's and the gas station next door. I thought this was odd because it was a Tuesday, and he didn't seem to be with anyone. I thought about asking if he was okay, but I didn't want to seem like a creep, so got my food and watched YouTube on my phone. After I finished up and went to the restroom, I was getting ready to walk back. I saw the kid still sitting there 40 minutes later, and every car in both lots were now different. Now this is a rough part of town. Lots of homeless people hang around nearby. I literally saw 4 within my line of sight near the kid. I decided I had to do something. I walked up and asked him if he was all right and if his parents were nearby. He said, quote, "My mom dropped me off. She said she will be back soon," quote. I asked when she dropped him off. He said 10 a.m. It was almost 3 p.m. I asked if he knew her number and he didn't. I asked if he lived around here and he said they live in a motel on the other side of town. At this point I knew I had to get someone. I asked his age and name, Mason, and 9. I told him I was going to call someone to help, and he immediately told me not to because his mom will get in trouble and he'll go back to foster care. My heart dropped. I was in foster care for nearly 2 years because my mom went to jail. I lied and assured him they would help him find his mom. I called the non-emergency number and explained the situation. They asked me to keep an eye on him until they arrived, and I agreed. While we waited, I asked him if he was hungry and got him a burger and drink. About 50 minutes later, the police came and started talking to him. I told him goodbye and wished him well and walked back to the mechanic. I called my mom on the way back and almost cried. I can't believe someone would just leave a kid at a McDonald's, especially in this part of town. I really hope he's okay, but I know how the system is and how unfair it is. I keep thinking about him and it tears me up. This is such a hard decision, but his safety is the priority and he wasn't safe. He may want to be with his mom, but that may not be the best choice. You had a tough decision. Thank you for helping. Bless you for paying attention and checking on this child. A bad person could have gotten to him. Thank you for caring. Thank you for helping. That mom left an 8-year all alone and that child be in school. You did the right thing. His mom can't be leaving him in sketchy places. The motel would have been a better option. I hope the kid gets the help he needs. You did the right thing. And those were the top comments. Which side are you on? And hey, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. We post stories like this every week. AITA for refusing to move back to the UK, despite my son wanting to. I, 42 male, moved to Canada about 8 months ago with my wife and 2 kids, 15 male and 12 female. I'm originally from the UK, but I also have Canadian citizenship because I lived here when I was younger before moving back to the UK later on. The move made sense for a few reasons. I work as a consultant with mostly US clients, so the time zone here is just easier to manage day to day. Taxes also ended up being a bit lower overall for us compared to what we were paying before. On top of that, I actually like the lifestyle here. It suits me better than the UK did. The issue is my son. He has been quite unhappy since we moved. He's had some issues at school with bullying and also a couple of unpleasant incidents on the street, people making comments, etc. Nothing extreme or dangerous, but still not nice, obviously. I won't pretend it didn't happen. That said, I've also had 1 or 2 weird encounters myself, but nothing major, and my wife and daughter have had 0 problems so far. So from my perspective, it feels more like bad luck or coincidence rather than something systemic or a reason to uproot everything again. Recently, my son told us he wants to go back to the UK. He says he felt more settled there, had friends, and didn't have these kinds of experiences. He's clearly upset, and I do feel bad about that. He also brought up a point I hadn't fully considered before, which is university. If we stay here, it becomes harder for him to go back to the UK for uni because of residency rules. From what I understand, You need to have been resident there for the last 3 years to qualify for home tuition fees, otherwise it becomes much more expensive. So in his mind, we're kind of closing that door for him, or at least making it harder. For context, we're of Indian origin. I have noticed that sometimes people can be a bit off initially, but once they hear my British accent or realize I'm from the UK, they tend to become friendly enough. So again, it's hard for me to tell how much of what my son is experiencing is something broader versus just a few isolated incidents, or even just being the quote new kid/quote. Despite all this, I told him we are not moving back. My reasoning is that we made this move as a family. It wasn't random, and it benefits us overall. My work situation is better. Financially, we're in a better place, and the rest of the family is adjusting fine. Uprooting again after less than a year feels like overreacting, especially since the issues he's had, while real, haven't been severe. Still, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I'm being too dismissive of how he feels. He's 15, this is a big age socially, and I get that being unhappy at school can feel like everything. So AITA for refusing to move back to the UK. I am of Indian origin and Canadian. I don't think you took the current situation in Canada into account. It's rough for kids in schools. You returned to a Canada you remembered, but your son has no pleasant memories to fall back on. Family is the motto of every Indian. Was this move right for you only in your family too? This may be my experience as a kid talking, but YTA. You moved your family to a different continent because it was more convenient for your work. You didn't bother to explore the downstream impacts on your children's futures before leaving. 15 is a critical time for children emotionally, socially, and academically. I moved at that age and it sucked. Friend groups, academic tracks, sports teams, etc. were all established. I was always an outsider, and I wasn't even experiencing random incidents of racism that you are discounting because the adults you work with treat you differently. Unreal. Not sure you can fix this, but I'm team son. All the reasons for moving you listed make your life more convenient. You haven't mentioned a single thing about how this will improve life for your family outside of yourself. In fact, it sounds like it's done the opposite. You sound selfish from your post. AITA, part of the reason your daughter is adjusting better is because 12 is more natural restart point in both the UK and in North America than 15. Plus, it's always easier to adjust to a new environment the younger you are. The comparison is unfair. Also, are you sure she really loves it as much as you say? Or does she see how your son's complaints are treated and is trying to be the kid who doesn't cause trouble? Your son would have been working towards his GCSE or higher if you were in Scotland, but I feel like you would have said if you were, and you've pulled him out of that in order to put him in a new system with its own standards that he isn't familiar with. He also doesn't have all the background knowledge that kids who grow up in the Canadian system do. And that's before we even get into the stress of having to understand social dynamics that formed before he arrived and having no friends or familiar faces to help him navigate them. Does his new school teach the all same subjects he was studying before? Do the classes in Canada start at the same level that his classes in the UK would have? Are the expectations of the work he hands in similar? It's been 8 months, and I think it's time to consider the idea that things might not get better. I agree with the others who are asking if there's anyone in the UK he can stay with to finish out his education. At the very least, I would explore the possibility with him, so that he can see you retaking his concerns, sir. Are there relatives he can live with in the UK and come to you for vacations? If he is miserable, there may be some benefit to finding a middle ground. Well, there you have it. Drop your verdict in the comments. And hey, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. We post stories like this every week.